All right, sorry about that. I lost track of time in Bethadone's chat. Anyway, we're gonna do Lake Tahoe today, but first we got ATF, JC, it's me, Corn Dog, South to West, Scott. What a lineup we've got already. I just wanted. I'm For some reason I've just been really interested in Lake Tahoe recently. Whoops, where's my camera at? There we go. Okay. So I was going to do a stream about it, and then I saw that it came up in the news, so I thought I would go ahead and do this. These are probably very chill. Like, these are very laid back videos, it looks like, so. But hopefully they'll be interesting. It's a couple of older videos about Lake Tahoe, and then I have a real quick video from the first ever video from the bottom of Lake Tahoe. And in case you don't know, Lake Tahoe is where the Pam and Tommy Lee sex tape was filmed, so you got that going for it. Anyway, I will be back in the morning as well for XPW, but I want to learn about Lake Tahoe, so this is a Lake Tahoe video tour. No, that's my liked videos. Like, where's this playlist at? Oh, well, I don't know. Hang on.
Deep in the Sierra Nevada, cushioned by green woodlands and surrounded by towering granite peaks, lies an unbroken sheet of gleaming blue, Lake Tahoe. A brilliant crystal centerpiece cradled between the...
Okay, this is 1987 promotional VHS tape.
Mountains of California and Nevada. Seeing the lake for the first time, Mark Twain was inspired to write, "As it lay there with the shadows of the mountains brilliantly photographed upon its still surface, I thought it must surely be the finest picture the..."
What's up, Leo? What's up, Izzy? What's up, Dave's channel? Yeah, I've been reading about that. As it lay there with the shadows of the mountains brilliantly photographed upon its still surface, I thought it must surely be the finest picture the whole earth affords.
Whole earth affords. Evergreen canopies of pine, fir, and cedar encircle Lake Tahoe's 72 miles of woodsy shoreline, forming a deep emerald band around the lake in the summer, and an ermine mantle of snow in the winter months when much of Lake Tahoe's spell is cast. Few places on Earth can boast the dramatic seasonal variety found in Lake Tahoe, where visitors and residents alike can experience the best that summer and winter have to offer.
Wow.
A well-kept secret from the world.
Summer and winter at the same time could be like a McHenry dream.
Until the mid-1800s, this secluded paradise was originally the home to the Washoe Indian tribe, who christened the lake Tahoe, meaning big water in high place. But no paradise remains anonymous for long. And in the 1840s, the discovery of...
Is that true? She's only an hour away from Lake Tahoe?
Gold and the richest silver deposit history has known, the Comstock lode, placed Tahoe on the map permanently.
Do you think she would want to take the Comstock lode tour?
Waves of prospectors and miners flooded the area, hoping to strike it rich, and gradually the Lake Tahoe community began to take shape. Then, as the lake became more accessible and the Old West faded into the past, an elite resort...
When I was a kid, people would have this shit in their yard. Like, it could even be, like, broken down, kind of, but, like, tons of people had this shit, like, these wooden wagons and stuff in their yard.
...area was born.
Schaller, if you hear me. Yes! Man, what a badass. Check this out. Man, if there's ever been an opportunity for slow motion, this is it. Look at him coming in. Look at this air he gets. Bam! Man, that's crazy.
Posh restaurants and clubhouses arose to cater to Tahoe City's new social set. Graceful summer homes began to decorate the landscape, tucked discreetly into the hillside or built on the water's edge.
Whoa, that'd be kind of cool.
Today, Tahoe City's tasteful...
7 inches. That's Shay Brown's favorite.
Redwood townhouses, private chalets,
and that's scientific. I have the video where she runs down her size preferences.
And A-frame cottages dominate the lakeside village. To cater to the continual flow of visitors, Tahoe City also has a wide variety of specialty shops and restaurants, like those found in the scenic Cobblestone Square. Near the square,
Gee, thanks. Did you watch my promo I cut on Bethadone?
The headwaters of the Truckee River pour through Lake Tahoe's only outlet as they begin the journey down the mountain towards Reno. Past the dam, visitors can always be found leaning over the famous Fanny Bridge to observe the activity of the schools of rainbow trout that swim safely in the water below. The sapphire blue lake itself is a center of activity during the summer months.
Look at this.
Sailboats glide effortlessly upon smooth stretches and some of the most challenging stretches of water in the world.
What's up, Ronald? This is what I thought we were going to get. Remember when the Thorpes loaded the boat up not too long ago? I thought this is what kind of content we were going to get out of that. They're very crafty. Mac and cheese. They measure in other ways. Where do I find videos like these VHS videos? I usually just search for kind of whatever I'm looking for. Sometimes if you just type VHS, it works. Sometimes if you type like 80s or 90s or, you know, but if you don't really know what you're looking for, it's kind of, it can be overwhelming because there's so much shit out there. But that's what I think for this, I literally looked for Lake Tahoe tourism VHS or Lake Tahoe tourism 80s.
Dozens of camp
Don't trad on me. That's a good t-shirt.
Grounds and marinas on the bank have available for rent every kind of pleasure craft, from catamarans and ski boats to paddle boats and sailboards. Windsurfers catch the warm summer breezes. Water skiers trail colorful sprays across the emerald surface. And scullers row their craft with practiced skill.
Hey, South to West, do you remember when the Thorpes did that beachside stream where they pretty much just sat there and talked and they just ran down every name and then discussed whether or not they thought it was classy or trashy?
With 22 miles of open water, those who prefer the jet ski find the room they need to open up and match their skill against one another.
But I'll say this too, like once you start watching a lot of this stuff, if you do, YouTube does get better and better at kind of digging deep into the archive to send into your algorithm as far as like, I've gotten quite a few really good old tourism videos that just popped up randomly. So I think once you really start to build your algorithm, that really helps too.
Vacationers seeking less populated areas tie up to the lakes.
Man, look, this is just beautiful. Even in like the old resolution, like it just looks so cool.
Secluded coves for a private moment.
Secluded coves.
As anglers fill their creels with trout, salmon, and whitefish that often weigh over 5 pounds each. Other activities to be found around the lake include an exciting champagne balloon ride from Zephyr Balloons.
What's that kid doing on a champagne ride? What was Ben? I don't think have they even streamed recently? I thought they were just doing like I thought that I didn't think they were streaming, or they did a VC maybe.
A lazy round of golf at one of the many courses in the area. Or a relaxing set of tennis at the Incline Racket Club or one of the many other courts around the lake.
The Tan Man.
With its miles of uncrowded shoreline, swimmers and sun worshippers alike enjoy a spectacular view across the lake from the sun-scorched beaches.
Holy shit.
At Sand Harbor, North Tahoe's
this looks like legitimate. Don't you think this looks like a painting almost? Like, look at the trees and the sky, the like little hill. I don't know if with mountains, whatever you call them, hills. Wow, it's incredible.
Popular summer recreation area, snorkelers slice through the crystal clear water, weaving in between enormous submerged boulders. While small children swim in the quiet pools which form in the sandy crescents near the water's edge.
Oh, he swam. I thought he got wiped out. Oh my God.
Every July and August, Sand Harbor delights and captivates audiences with the annual open-air music and theater festival. Beneath the starlit sky.
See, like here, they're saying open-air music festival. Like, I might, if I remember, I might go type in Lake Tahoe, whatever they just said, to try to see if I can find that video. You know what I mean?
Talented musicians fill the night.
The Boyd, and especially like if you're into like the VHS stuff, works along the same way. Like, you have to really, some of the stuff is like creatively titled, or they don't know what it is, and it'll just say something like random music festival or something like that.
Night air with song, and well-known drama companies perform outstanding renditions of Shakespeare's finest works. Held in a natural sandy amphitheater above the beach, the festival is best enjoyed with a full picnic basket and a warm blanket. For those Wild West enthusiasts who enjoyed the popular television series Bonanza,
Ponderosa Ranch of Bonanza TV fame. Western family for the Western family fun for everyone.
A
tour kind of looks like the Star Wars font.
Of Tahoe's famous Ponderosa Ranch should not be missed. Nestled in the southeast corner of Incline Village, this fictional home of the Cartwright family was built expressly for the NBC television series in 1959. And it was here that many important scenes were filmed. The series in 1959.
Was that Moe from the Three Stooges?
And it was here that many important scenes were filmed. The Ponderosa's Old West town recreates the flavor of the Bonanza days with amazing authenticity and tempts visitors to try their luck in the shooting gallery. Or a breakfast hayride.
Breakfast hayride. Oh, now this is awesome. Look at this guy making all these pancakes. Oh, I bet those are good pancakes.
Or mosey on down to the Ponderosa stables, saddle up a horse, and head out for a tour of the gorgeous backcountry. A few miles from the Ponderosa Ranch, one finds North Tahoe's most prestigious hotel casino, the Hyatt Lake Tahoe, in the midst of the affluent Incline Village. Also located in Incline Village, Stephen offers fine dining in a relaxed atmosphere. Continuing around Crystal Bay, the famous Calneva Lodge, the Tahoe Biltmore Lodge and Casino, and the Crystal Bay Club create a glittering gateway at the state line between California and Nevada.
Come here, Poppy.
Reminiscent of the Old South, Lake Tahoe's two majestic glass-bottom paddle wheel boats, the MS Dixie and the Tahoe Queen, glide gracefully to and fro, offering splendid views of the lake's underwater flora and marine life. One can enjoy a mid-morning champagne brunch aboard the Dixie, or a romantic dinner cruise, complete with live music and dancing. Both splendid white paddle wheelers take passengers on a guided tour of Tahoe's silent coves and bays. The most popular excursion is a lazy ride into the blue-green oval of Emerald Bay, one of the most beautiful inland harbors in the world. The legendary beauty of this quiet cove is enhanced by the fairy tale stone tea house nestled in the pines of Emerald Bay's tiny central island. Built in 1929 by Laura Josephine Knight to
Imagine if Reflection could have done a shoot here.
remind her of her native Norway, the 38-room Vikingsholm mansion is an authentic reproduction of an ancient Viking castle. As the snows melt from the mountaintops, they feed the rivers, waterfalls, and forest streams of the Tahoe Basin. The most spectacular of these waterfalls lies across
I wish
from
he would
Emerald
shut up and they'd turn the music up. This music really hits.
Bay. A small footbridge leads the way to Eagle Falls, a bridal veil of cascading white water, which refreshes onlookers with gentle spray as it crashes upon the rocks below.
Refresh onlookers with gentle sprays.
Resting on the western shore
South to west. Remember when the Thorpes would spray each other with the water bottle in the RV?
of the lake is the famous
And Ben, remember when he just kept spraying her over and over and over again because she wouldn't wake up, and he wanted to wake her up without looking like the bad guy?
Meeks Bay Resort. One of Tahoe's most popular vacation spots, it features a fishing pier and a charming village of log cabins that date back to the early 1900s. Also on the western shore, the Rockwood Lodge is one of several bed and breakfast inns around
What's up,
the lake.
ATF?
This cozy lodge with its rustic pine interior is the perfect place for quiet rest and relaxation.
ATF, you ever been to the Stone Tea House on Lake Tahoe? It seems pretty keen.
Acres of Tahoe's forest are devoted to outdoor adventures, both tame and rugged. There's rock climbing on the huge
What a
granite
camera
boulders.
angle this guy's getting.
There are fishing camps and hiking trails which lead deep into the forest. There's whitewater rafting on the Truckee River, where groups can paddle from Tahoe City to the River Ranch restaurant. And there are daily horseback rides that lead along soft forest trails or through Squaw Valley's grassy pastures and flowered meadows.
Tahoe Trad.
The Sierra wildlife is abundant in the Tahoe Basin. Gentle deer slip quietly through the draping pines, while chipmunks scurry across the soft forest floor.
I really would. I would not. I would have to put on a bunch of sunblock for sure.
Located in the beautiful environs of the Sugar Pine Point State Park, the magnificent Airman Mansion recalls the heydays of the Roaring Twenties at Lake Tahoe. This stone turreted and wood-pillared edifice was once owned by two of San Francisco's wealthiest families, the Airmans and the Hellmans, who often held lavish parties and summer buffets at the mansion. The mansion and its lush estate was purchased by the state in 1965 and is currently open to the public during the summer months. Tahoe's D.L. Bliss State Park.
I know this is like the closest thing. It's like virtual grass touching, virtual vacation.
Is a camper's paradise with over 200 sites snuggled deep in Bliss
Nice
State
of
Park.
Geraldo
Is a camper's
Rivera
paradise
to allow himself to be filmed.
with over 200 sites snuggled deep in the piney woods and tucked up against the unspoiled shoreline. A splendid array of unusual rock formations can be found in Bliss Park, including Balancing Rock, a massive granite boulder delicately balanced on a tiny natural pedestal.
Who's this guy?
Toward the northern end of Bliss Park, a self-guided trail leads hikers to Rubicon Point, a sheer cliff which drops over 1,400 feet and gives way to the deepest point along Lake Tahoe shoreline. Here, the water undergoes a remarkable array of color changes, from the palest shade of blue to the deepest indigo. From this vantage point, you can often see objects clearly to depths of more than 80 nautical feet. In the midst of this surrounding beauty and rugged wilderness, the pulse of South Lake Tahoe beats with unexpected excitement. Gaming, the world of high rollers and big spenders, where fortunes are won and lost on
Finally, this is what I've been
the
waiting
turn
for.
of a card. Famous throughout the world, South Tahoe's casinos glitter day and night. Visitors come from near and far to try their luck at resorts like Harrah's Tahoe, the only five-star hotel casino in the
Aliens.
world. Harvey's, the magnificent world of Caesars, and
Whoa.
many others.
You could see Air Supply.
In addition to the excitement of gaming, South Lake Tahoe also offers the best in fine
Oh, look at
dining.
this tableside service, man.
Restaurants like Harrah's Summit
You'd
and
feel like a McHenry eating at a place like this.
Harvey's Top of the Wheel. The casinos of South Tahoe also offer some of the best in big name and cabaret entertainment. From the Smothers Brothers and Andy Williams to Wayne Newton and the Bottoms Up
Father Guido Sarducci, George Nature Boy Kirby.
Comedy Review. And if you feel like moving,
Oh my
the
God.
South Shore has plenty of nightclubs
Oh man, this is really
like
something
After
here.
Dark and if you Comedy Review. And if you feel like moving, the South Shore has plenty of nightclubs like After Dark and Yesterdays where you can dance the night away. West of the Casino District lies the narrow fingers of the Tahoe Keys, an elite community
Narrow fingers?
of beautiful homes resting on the banks of secluded waterways. At the Tahoe Keys Marina, one can find a multitude of watercraft, including the Spirit of Tahoe Keys, one of the most luxurious charter boats on the lake. The marina is also the place to find fine dining at the Marina Restaurant and the Fresh Catch. Fallen Leaf Lake, the second largest alpine lake in the region, lies only 5 miles from Tahoe. Originally a turn-of-the-century boys' camp, some of the oldest buildings still remain, lining the narrow forest roads around the lake. Today, the buildings house fine summer cottages and fishing lodges. Another reminder of the Old West is the historic town of Truckee.
Look at the cop car.
Another reminder of the Old West is the historic town of Truckee. Dating back to the 19th century, this community of wooden walkways, clapboard storefronts, and old-town flavor reminds the visitor of times past. The beautifully restored Truckee Hotel is a fine example of early frontier architecture, and they still welcome guests into their rooms. Stepping back in history, visitors can still see
What a delightful
remnants of the
place.
logging industry that helped bring about the Virginia Truckee Railroad. The railroad and the logging industry originated as a
No
result of
wonder Pam and Tommy Lee chose this as their filming
Virginia
location.
City's need for cordwood to run the Cornish pumps that pumped water out of the mines. The railroad was used to ship the lumber through the mountains to Virginia City and was also the direct link to California, establishing Truckee as a resting place for weary travelers. The fall months in Truckee are full of celebration, beginning with the Truckee Rodeo in August. The rodeo brings back the flavor of the Old West in full force with many exciting events like calf roping, bronc riding, barrel racing, and trick and exhibition riding.
These incidents are much smoother than the ones we saw on the last rodeo VHS we watched. Whoa.
For those with more subdued tastes, the Autumn Jubilee takes place every September. During the Jubilee, local restaurant and store owners gather to display their wares. Visitors are invited to taste the wide variety of
Oh man, all these outfits. This reminds me of the Taste of Chicopee.
succulent food and wine that is on display. Oktoberfest, the German celebration to mark the end of summer, concludes the Autumn Jubilee. At this event, the visitor will see demonstrations of German dances, complete with authentic costumes. One can also sample true German beer and partake
The
in
chicken
dances,
dance?
complete with Autumn Jubilee. At this event, the visitor will see demonstrations of German dances, complete with authentic costumes. One can also sample true German beer and partake in the delicious food. It's truly an experience not to be missed.
It's like that European vacation movie.
Many visitors say the
Oh,
beauty
look
of
at
Lake
this.
Tahoe is
What a visual.
many
that's fantastic.
Visitors say the beauty of Lake Tahoe is the boldest in the winter months, when the sheer granite spires and lush greenery are highlighted with the soft gleam of newly
Everything
fallen
here
snow.
is beautiful.
Since the early 1920s, when Southern Pacific first introduced its Snowball Railroad Express, tourists have made Lake Tahoe part
That's
of
what
their
G
winter
thinks, likes
ritual.
the Snowball
And today,
Express.
over 23 resorts provide skiers with a choice of more than 3,000 different runs. Cross-country skiing, torchlit parades, snowshoeing, moonlight skiing, guided snowmobile tours through the Sierra Wilderness. Nowhere else in the world can one find such a variety of winter sports and entertainment.
Not yet. What's up, KP?
Snowfest, North Lake Tahoe's annual winter carnival, celebrates the season with a 10-day festival of sports and entertainment. Most of the region's ski resorts participate, and events include celebrity races and other ski tournaments.
You think Tahoe got a lot of trads?
Fireworks at Tahoe City. The crowning of a Snowfest queen.
Oh, that's what we need to see, the Snowfest Queen pageant.
And a torchlight ski parade in the Tahoe Basin's most famous ski resort, Squaw Valley. It was in 1960 that Squaw Valley made its dramatic debut to the world, introducing its challenging downhill runs to the athletes of the Winter Olympic Games.
Girl watching.
As tradition dictates, the Olympic flame ignited at the 1960 Games still burns proudly outside the resort entrance, a poignant reminder to all visitors of the spirit of peace and friendship among all nations. Today, Squaw's 27 ski lifts shuttle skiers effortlessly to more than 100 different trails and downhill runs.
Snow camping? Uh-oh. Whoops. Enough skiing, God.
Winter isn't the only time to catch the action at Squaw Valley. Squaw is a year-round resort, and even in the summer months, its world-famous SkyTram whisks passengers more than 2,000 vertical feet above the valley floor. Once at the summit, visitors can enjoy the majestic panorama as they sip drinks at the resort bar. In August,
Whoa.
as they sip drinks
Look at
the
this
resort
optical
bar.
illusion. This umbrella kind of looks like it could be folded inside out. Don't you think so? Looks like it could be either way.
In August, Squaw Valley's Olympic Village becomes host to many annual festivals of art and music. At these summer celebrations, one can listen to talented musicians or stroll among skilled artisans displaying their wares.
Yarn trad.
Enjoy jugglers and other performers as they entertain the festive crowd. Also in Squaw Valley, Perkins' Pretty Good Grocery, a unique gourmet deli, is a stop not to be missed.
Yeah, see, lots of people be like, oh, here's where you go to ski. Here's where you go to, you know, whatever, take a trip on a boat. But they don't tell you where to go to get groceries. Now you know. Go to the pretty good grocery
Lake
store.
Tahoe can also claim the largest ski resort in America, Heavenly Valley, which boasts Tahoe's highest run, Monument Peak, elevated more than 10,000 feet above sea level, and also
Leisure
one of the
time,
steepest
yes.
ski slopes in the country, the Mott's Canyon Trail. Sprawled over 9 different mountains, Heavenly Valley is unique in that 1/3 of it lies in California, while the remaining 2/3 of the resort lie in the state of Nevada. Skiers at Heavenly can actually begin a ski run in one state and finish it up in another.
Heavenly Valley is where Craig Cooley stuck his hand. Enough skiing. I'm getting fired up.
With more than 23 unique resorts available, the only difficulty a Tahoe skier encounters is choosing between them. Moonlight skiing at Boreal Ridge. Dramatic views of Tahoe from Mount Rose, Slide Mountain, and North Star. Over 100 runs at
Ski
Alpine
school.
Meadows. Sugar Bowl with its sparkling vista of Donner Lake.
Sugar Bowl.
And Ski Incline, Kirkwood, and Sierra Ski Ranch. All unique resorts with a variety of runs that readily welcome beginners and offer a continual challenge to experts.
Are they advocating that you do this?
For the freer spirit, the meadows and hills around the lake provide miles and miles of cross-country skiing opportunity. Many resorts offer classes, but this sport is easily learned and is the perfect way for all ages and the whole family to explore the scenic backcountry.
This looks awful.
In sharp contrast to the solitude of a lone skier. In sharp contrast to the solitude of a lone skier, snowmobiles open up a completely different winter thrill. From guided tours through the wilderness to solo exploration of a snowy meadow, the Tahoe Basin is the ideal place for this motorized fun.
Whoa! Wow. I always like it in a movie when the bad guys are following on the snowmobiles, like in a Bond movie or something, and they'll get shot off of it, and then it'll like fly off of a like big ramp by itself, and then like just hit something random and just explode in a huge ball of fire. Like, how's that even real? That doesn't even look real. It looks too good. Lake Tahoe is too good to be true, I think.
Lake Tahoe,
What's up,
from
Killer
the
Kenny?
sun-scorched visions of summer
Why'd they show him missing?
to the velvet blanket of winter.
Oh, come on. Ski track. Oh, look at that. I mean, wow. Very life affirming, you know.
From the spray of crystal blue water to the thrill of deep powder.
Deep powder, that's what me and the heathen are talking about.
And from the excitement of casino action to the solitude of mountain wilderness.
I saw a Lifetime movie where a guy shoved his wife off of that thing.
Lake Tahoe truly is a multifaceted jewel of breathtaking beauty. Once seen, it will always be remembered. And once experienced, it will never be forgotten.
Wow, look at that. Incredible. Oh, give me a break. Come on. Thank you, Crystal Bay Group. All right, so we know what's above ground, right? We got to see all the different attractions. But I know you were go to hell, Harvey Freebird. But I know that you were probably thinking what I was thinking, which is with it being in the news all the time nowadays for the water levels being so low, what was going on what was going on in that water back in the day? And so here's a show that talks about what's under the surface of Lake Tahoe. Surely.
The first glimpse you get of Lake Tahoe is one you'll likely never forget. Hello.
There's the thumbnail guy. As soon as I saw him, I was like, that's got to be the thumbnail.
I'm John Tyson for Skyfire. And this fabled Lake of the Sky has cast an irresistible spell upon all of us who've ever
orgies on boats,
walked along its shore, or gazed into its clear blue depths.
Gaze. Like, this looks like it's a shot off a Survivor or something. You know, they have those before the, like, bumper videos, like nature videos. That's what this looks like.
To the Washoe Indians, the lake provided a sacred refuge in the summer where they snared fish, picked berries, and sang the old songs. Later, explorers like Captain John C. Fremont would write glowing chronicles that told of the lake's magnificent grandeur. From Mark Twain down to the present-day visitor, each of us has been staggered by the size, clarity, and alpine splendor of this high mountain lake. But for all the beauty along her shore, very few people have witnessed the beauty that lies just beneath the water's surface. You are about to discover sunken treasures no human has ever seen before. Land and rock features that have been submerged for tens of thousands of years. Ancient forests, sunken boats, and the famous steamer Tahoe. Unusual formations, locked away from man's view since the lake began to form almost 3 million years ago. Come with us now as we explore the sunken treasures of Lake Tahoe.
Thanks, John. Paddle to the sea. me screenshot that. Jim Irwin.
Sometime during the great age of the dinosaur, a new
She's still dyeing her hair.
land that would one day lie atop the highest peaks of the Sierra Nevada mountains began to form deep beneath the waters of the Pacific Ocean. Hundreds of miles to the east, in what is now the state of Utah, lay vast stretches of stagnant water.
Stop asking for John Sluga's, and it's pronounced Sluga. His dad's name is Sluga. Vinny's name is Slugga. His name is Sluga, though. He doesn't want his medical information out there.
Elsewhere, in places that would one day be the Rocky Mountains, mudflats and tide pools stretched as far as the eye could see. Man was not yet one of the creatures that
What's up? It's me.
inhabited the earth. Lake Tahoe and even the mighty Sierra Mountains had not yet come into existence. But all of this was about to change. Deep within the earth, unseen geological forces began to transform the region. Forces so powerful and catastrophic, they could move an entire continent.
Wow. Is any of this
The great
verified?
change began out here, under the crashing waves of the Pacific Ocean. Deep underwater, the Pacific continental plate, an immense land mass came out of the Pacific and collided with North America's
What's up, Bob Brown? 5:45 a.m. Jeez.
continental slope.
Did you just wake up so it's early, or are you still awake so you're tired?
The collision forced the more dense Pacific plate to tuck under the North American plate.
Yeah, see? Unregulated swamp gas.
Sliding downward into the hot interior of the Earth. As the plate pushed deeper into the Earth's hot mantle, its rock melted into huge pockets of hot magma.
No, I forgot about it, actually, and then she messaged me after my stream and asked why I didn't make the promo, and so I just let it go.
As the process continued, the hot magma began to rise to the surface under immense volcanic pressure.
It did take me about 4 takes, but it was like the first 3 were really short. It was because I kept laughing at the beginning. Oh, you sleep in parts.
A few miles inland from the coastal shore, fiery volcanoes, fueled by those underground magma chambers, vented colossal amounts of lava, ash, and hot gases along faults in the Earth's crust.
Can you imagine if you fell into that shit?
Now, in those early days of mountain building, ancient volcanoes were also erupting throughout the region we know today as the Sierra. Those ancient volcanoes, which have long since vanished through time and erosion,
that would be the worst,
were very similar to present-day volcanoes of the Cascades.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
Such as Mount Shasta and Mount Lassen.
Look at this. Beautiful. Great.
The force of these eruptions were far greater than the most powerful atomic bomb.
Hey, Virginia.
Even today, this process, called subduction, continues to evolve off the coast of Northern California, Oregon, and Washington. Hissing, boiling, steaming, cauldrons of superheated groundwater that contain precious metals, compounds of gold and silver, broke to the surface along weakened fault lines in the fractured landscape. From this fiery crucible, the West's greatest mountain ranges were born: the Cascades, the Siskiyou, and the mighty Sierra Nevada. But Mother Nature had only begun to flex her muscle. For those old volcanoes, which first built the Sierra landscape, were soon to be hoisted skyward in even a grander display of geological power. For hundreds of miles, the land surface was fractured and faulted. Enormous blocks of the Earth's crust were heaved up, forming long, steep mountain ranges, separated by deep valleys. The basin which would eventually hold Lake Tahoe was created between the rising Sierra Nevada.
This seems like it's probably a non-confrontational type documentary.
To the west, and the Carson Range to the east. The two mountain ranges, rising on either side, left a relatively flat valley down the center which sank even deeper.
This music.
On Tahoe's west shore near Rubicon Point, we found a curious-looking rock that was lying
This music sounds like what they'd play at the end of like a 70s science fiction movie when like the twist is finally revealed.
Sideways on shore near center, which sank even deeper.
Oh my God, it was Earth the whole time.
On Tahoe's west shore near Rubicon Point, we found a curious-looking rock that was lying sideways on a narrow granite ledge. The lines in this rock that look like scratches are very similar to what one might have seen 3 million years ago. The Sierra tilting upward and the valley slipping down in the opposite direction, ground against each other in certain places, producing long, deep scratches.
There's actually quite a bit in Lake Tahoe. There's quite a bit of Bigfoot activity, and there's also claims of like a lake monster. There was something else. There's an alien connection as well, but I don't think there's as much about it as there is the Bigfoot and the lake creature.
In the rock. With two mountain ranges on either side and a deep valley down the middle, all that was needed to form a lake was a barrier, a dam across the far end of the valley. And that dam was constructed right over there on the north end of Lake Tahoe by an enterprising young volcano.
Like, is he really there? Or is he pointing to like is he standing in front of a backdrop?
The locals call Mount Pluto.
Oh, no.
Eruptions from Pluto on the neighboring volcanoes sent thick lava flows down the mountainside. Slowly, they creeped across the bottom of the valley's only outlet, a riverbed. The lava sealed off the northwest end of the valley, building up a natural lava sill across the two canyons at Tahoe City, California.
Lava stresses
Evidence
me
of these
out.
lava flows can be seen on either side of Highway 89, between Squaw Valley and River Ranch. Melting snow water from the High Sierra backed up behind this lava dam to form Lake Tahoe. Now, even though that happened more than 2 million years ago, to a scientist, well, that's not really very long at all, especially when you consider the Earth itself is more than 4 billion years old.
That's going to make some people mad.
While the Sierra and Carson ranges were being tilted up along their deep-reaching faults, volcanoes continued to pop up throughout the fractured Tahoe Basin. The earthly remains of one of these volcanoes lies here at a place called Cave Rock. Cave Rock is sort of like the chimney that's left standing after the house burns down. It was once one of the feeder pipes that carried molten lava to an active volcano that surrounded it. But when the lava stopped flowing, the volcano died. Its loose slope of ash and cinders were gradually eroded away, leaving behind this super hard rocky plug that was once molten lava.
Leaving behind a plug.
Not far away, another ancient volcano was exposed in the steep lava cliffs at Shakespeare Rock overlooking Glenbrook Bay. Cave Rock and nearby Shakespeare Rock are both several million years older than Lake Tahoe. As the Earth movement tilted up the Sierra Block more than 2 miles above sea level, incoming storms from the Pacific hovered near the summit, depositing layer upon layer of fresh, wet snow.
Lake Tahoe is.
spring. Majestic waterfalls filled with ice-cold water from the melting snow cascaded off the steep granite bluffs and down into the deep basin.
Like, just think, to get this footage back in the day, you actually had to like go there and go up, find a helicopter or whatever to drive you around. Then you had to have a cameraman that knew how to shoot under those conditions. Like, now you could just use a drone and pretty much anybody could get, you know, really spectacular footage. But I don't know, back in the day, that the effort, I think it shows.
Over time, the broad valley was slowly flooded with runoff snow water. Tahoe became the beautiful
Oh, thank you, Scott.
lake we know today. After all this wondrous creation, the forces of nature were still not finished with this mountain masterpiece.
Yeah, you might have to rent a plane.
High above the shoreline, erosion gnawed relentlessly at the imposing granite peaks. Over thousands of years, the endless cycle of freeze and thaw began to break apart the rock into massive house-sized boulders. Imagine the splash those boulders must have made as rock slides and earthquakes sent them crashing through the trees, down the mountainside into the water.
The people in Lake Tahoe in 1993 had no idea how good they had it.
And then, the earth grew cold, very cold. Temperatures plunged as severe winter storms creeped down from the north. For the next 2 million years, it would seem like the earth itself was freezing and thawing as a series of great ice ages descended upon the northern hemisphere.
She did. They dedicated it to her.
In the Sierra,
But they didn't say anything else.
blizzard after blizzard assaulted the high country. The snows accumulated and compacted to form ice fields hundreds of feet deep. The sheer weight of the ice compressed to form enormous, rock-crushing glaciers. Inch by inch, year after year, the glaciers marched down from their high mountain catch basins all the way to the lake shore and even out into the lake water. These immense flows of ice scraped against the Sierra's granite canyons, grinding off the rock and polishing the walls into smooth vertical bluffs. The ice moved down through rocky troughs like this one on the upper Tuolumne River, carving out deep pockets in glacial
He was
valleys.
tasteful about it.
Above Lake Tahoe, spectacular basins were carved out of solid granite rock. When the glaciers melted back, they left magnificent lakes such as Fallen Leaf, Cascade Lake, and Tahoe's own Emerald Bay. The glacier acted something like a bulldozer blade. It scraped dirt and loose rock out of the canyons and deposited them in front and on both sides of the ice flow. These rocky deposits were called moraines. The glacier dug far into the earth, carving out a deep pocket. When it melted back, it left this magnificent water feature, Emerald Bay. It is a fascinating mystery how this island in the middle of the bay survived the crushing force of the ice. Was the island's rock so hard that the glacier rode up over the top?
Glacier, yeah.
Or is it possible that this island was transported to the center of the bay from higher up on the mountain by the...
It's true. EMAC does have kind of an erosion content style.
the last glacier? Some things about Lake Tahoe we'll never know.
Lake
Today,
Tahoe
this shallow water
glacier ice.
passage at the mouth of Emerald Bay marks the spot where the glacier came to a stop, depositing all the rocks it had carried down from the mountains. Now, during this period, another glacier flowing out of Squaw Valley dammed up the Truckee River to create a huge natural ice dam. It's also reasonable to assume that huge icebergs broke off in the Emerald Bay glaciers and floated into lake water toward the ice dams. There's evidence that those dams caused the lake level to rise as much as 600 feet above its present elevation. Several times, these ice dams lifted, like floodgates suddenly thrown open. The raging floodwaters picked up truck-sized granite boulders, like this, from the canyon walls, and sent them hurtling downstream like marbles. Today, you can spot these flood-carried granite boulders all along the Truckee River between Squaw Valley and Reno, Nevada, over 30 miles downstream from Lake Tahoe. Now that we know a bit of what has happened...
Look at this guy, man. He's a real aura farmer.
Above the waterline here at Tahoe, it's time we explore the intriguing world beneath the surface. A world that's been hidden from view for thousands of years.
Let's go. Oversized load comes through.
The company that operated the paddle wheeler excursion boat, the MS Dixie, trucked in a special 55-foot workboat from Lake Mead to help document this story. Now, moving such a large boat on a low-bed trailer over narrow mountain roads was a monumental task that took several hours to complete. As they got the boat ready, we spoke with Charles Goldman.
I hope this, like, devolves into chaos and it turns into, like, when Werner Herzog and Klaus Kinski and them made the movie about moving the boat over land and reassembling it on the other side.
Professor of Limnology, who has studied Lake Tahoe extensively for several years in cooperation with the University of California at Davis.
This is what we call a typical graben lake. Tahoe owes its remarkable depth to the fact that it's formed in a block fault. The bottom dropped down, or more likely the sides, the mountains came up on both sides, leaving the original basin. It has about half a kilometer of sediment already accumulated, much of which was accumulated during the period of intensive glaciation. Tahoe has collected at least a half a kilometer of sediment, and millions and millions of years hence, Tahoe will probably fill up. So in the geologic sense, all lakes are short-lived.
A few days later, we were moving out across the open water to get our first glimpse of what might lay under the surface. We would use unmanned, submersible ROVs equipped with cameras and lights to probe the bottom.
Cool.
Under the experienced hand of Tahoe ship captain Jim Biller, our workboat, the Echo 5, was positioned over our first dive site near Logan Shoals.
This is going to be epic.
It was here that we had seen some of the largest boulders along the shoreline. Underwater, the surface looked like liquid quicksilver. The water was somewhat green, due to the fact that Tahoe had experienced a strong spring runoff, and nutrients were still suspended in the water near the surface. We cruised along the sandy bottom, a good quarter-mile offshore. Here the water was still relatively shallow. The submerged boulders were enormous.
Is this video like just a few feet under the surface?
It was curious that they had traveled such a far distance out into the lake. Perhaps the waterline may have been lower at one time, allowing these rocks to roll across dry land. Small minnows darted about between the rocks. They were not afraid of our equipment. Moving across the bottom, we marveled at the excellent visibility. There was no moss or seaweed. We expected to see an occasional large fish, but none came into view.
Hey.
It was almost as if the lake were antiseptically sterile. No moss, no weeds,
That is crazy
no
how
large
clear it
fish.
is.
At the turn of the century, Lake Tahoe was renowned for its fighting cutthroat trout. The sleek fish had been taken from these waters by the ton until the native trout became extinct in the mid-30s. The lake had been restocked with deepwater Mackinaw. Perhaps we would find them in deeper waters. At the shallower depths, wave action had channeled the sand into long, graceful furrows.
Wow, look at this. Amazing. Fish gangs.
It was ironic that here underwater, the sand furrows were almost identical to dry land formations caused by blowing, drifting sand.
Imagine getting blown at the bottom of Lake Mead. Or what is this, Lake Tahoe? I mean,
From the shallow water at Logan Shoals, we moved across to the deepest known water in the lake, near Rubicon Point. Just a short distance from shore, the bottom had been sounded to a depth of more than 1,600 feet, perhaps the deepest place in the lake. We knew from looking at sonar depth charts that the shoreline would plunge steeply into the water.
why is it playing this
As
Aladdin
we cruised
music?
along the shoreline, the rocky granite cliffs at Rubicon rose 300 vertical feet.
Is this Sabu's
steeply
theme?
16 short distance from shore and water in the lake, near Rubicon Point. Just a short distance from shore, the bottom had been sounded to a depth of more than 1,600 feet, perhaps the deepest place in the lake. We knew from looking at sonar depth charts that the shoreline would plunge steeply into the water. As we cruised along the shoreline, the rocky granite cliffs at Rubicon rose 300 vertical feet out of the water. More than any place on the shoreline, these
Cross
cliffs
it.
were the best example of how the Sierra had pushed straight up from the valley floor, which now lay far below our ship, buried under 280 fathoms of deep blue water. Beneath the surface, the face of the granite cliff dropped off into a dark abyss.
Bye-bye. Whoa. Did you see that little
As our
coaster that's
cameras
taking the
slowly
picture?
descended a steep incline, we noticed that the rocks were quite angular and not as smoothly polished from erosion as the rocks above the water line.
Oh, boy. How much is a
Occasionally,
fathom?
we found evidence like this of an underwater rock fall. Just like on the surface, loose rock had slid down through the submerged rock chute and had come to rest on an angular outcropping.
1 fathom is 1 vegan patriot. So for every fathom that they go down, it's like going down another vegan patriot. To put it in Boyd terms.
The cameras focused on the rock face as we descended, but each time we turned to look down, the granite cliff continued to plunge vertically toward the bottom.
I don't know how loose it is. It does it. I don't care for being in the, I would not like being down in the water like this, but it just looks really, it doesn't look, it looks kind of sus to me.
As we sank deeper and deeper,
1,600-foot extension cord for this little toaster camera.
our quartz lights were becoming ineffective in the dark waters. But there was still no end in sight to the sheer, plunging cliffs at Rubicon.
1.3 DeVitos.
Except for the rock falls, this submerged geological formation had remained unchanged from the beginning when it was thrust up from the center of the Earth.
Would I rather go into space or underwater? I don't know. I feel like space, you're either alive or dead. It's a pretty miserable experience, though, in space. Probably be more comfortable if you were in like a submarine or something, but either I wouldn't care for either one of them. Or I wouldn't want to be on a Ferris wheel.
We felt like explorers upon an alien planet. Every eye watched the monitor in absolute fascination as the two remote ROVs made their descent into an ancient land that was filled with mystery. At a depth of 532 feet, the ROVs were coming to the end of the tether.
At where were they at?
ROVs were coming to... At a depth of 532 feet, the ROVs were coming...
So, 500 feet, and the thing goes down 1,600 feet.
...to the end of the tether. The picture was so dark, stronger lights would be needed if we were to dive deeper. The cliff continued to plunge off vertically. At this extreme depth, we were still less than a third of the way to the bottom.
Incredible. Holy shit. Oh my God.
As we made our way
there?
back out of the watery abyss, we again noticed the lack of moss and algae on the rocks. And we had not encountered a single fish.
How strange. This is so crazy, the footage.
This apparent lack of living organisms is what gave Tahoe its extreme water clarity. We were beginning to believe that for all practical purposes, the lake was a lifeless pool of blue alpine water. We would soon change our opinion.
100 Dannies?
As we cruised along the shoreline to the next dive site, we entered a section of the lake which man had not changed since the beginning.
Oh, no, that's cool looking.
This was a remote, landlocked area that still teemed with wildlife.
Based geese. See, you can just tell this place is perfect for a Bigfoot story, you know?
Closing your eyes, it was easy to imagine that this is what the lake might have looked like when Mark Twain declared it to be the fairest wonder of the world. Captain Jim Biller brought the Echo 5 over one of the lake's many seamounts, an area of isolated land that was unexplainably elevated off the lake bottom.
Yes.
Fishing boats had reported this area to be a fertile spot for catching the lake's huge Mackinaw trout. Lowering over the side, we hoped to get our first glimpse of the big fish. The ROV settled through 170 feet of water. Suddenly, we made out our first sighting of the seamound. The top of the mound was covered with heavy green grass. Except for minnows, this was the first real sign of life we had encountered.
How far down is this? 170 some feet?
What appeared as trails through the grass were actually scars caused by fishermen accidentally dragging their boat anchors across the bottom. There was no apparent reason why the grass was flourishing here, but not growing in other shallow places on the lake. Just like at Logan Shoals, the top of the mound seemed to be covered with white sand. So we wondered, what made this different from the rest of the lake?
You don't like the music south to west?
We would soon have our answer. Suddenly, we caught a glimpse of our first Mackinaw. It looked to be a 4 to 6 pounder. The big fish was wary, moving off slowly from the ROV.
The fish were not scared of our boat.
As the Mackinaw swam away to safer ground, we continued to explore the top of the seamound. The grass bed inclined toward the west, reaching what appeared to be a flat plateau at the top. Our depth gauge showed we had climbed slightly in elevation to 158 feet. At this depth, we were just out of range for the average recreational scuba diver. The grass provided a perfect cover in which smaller fish could
What's up, Eron?
hide and feed on the nutrients. Perhaps this was a spawning bed where fertilized eggs could develop in relative obscurity between the grass. As we glided across the underwater pasture, we caught sight of two more
Kicked off a
Mackinaw.
panel. I don't think there's any actual divers, are there? I think it's all robots.
Big fish appeared as apparitions against the clear blue water. Like the first, these two were exceedingly suspicious.
What?
We learned from local fishing guides that the Mac could only be found in select
These were very suspicious fish.
spots. Depending on the time of year, temperature, and prevailing wind, they migrated to their most favorite habitat at various points around the lake. We tried to follow the elusive fish, but were soon outdistanced. When we had approached the mound, our depth finder indicated that it rose more than 600 feet off the lake bottom. Curious as to what might be found at the edge of this elevated plateau, Tim Romedy turned his ROV and headed for what we hoped would be the south side of the formation. No one had ever seen the side of these mounds, and we were filled with
Underwater Bigfoot. Aqua Squatch.
natural anticipation.
Now we're getting into the good stuff.
As we neared the edge, the top of the seamound began to gently slope off toward the bottom. Our depth gauge read 172 feet.
Oh man, isn't would be terrifying for me.
Over a curious-looking formation. At first blush, it looked like a volcanic blister on the ground. As the camera continued over the side,
Yeah, they have a lake monster there. Well, I mean there's a lore of one.
we were suddenly presented with an awesome spectacle we had never imagined to encounter. It was clear to see where the sediment ended. The grass was growing atop
They call it Tessie.
of what appeared to be a solid mass of rock. Experts had told us before the dive that the lake bed was almost perfectly flat and sandy. The only differences we expected to find were the boulders along the east shore and the Rubicon Cliffs on the west side. But what we had stumbled upon here was beginning to look like a real discovery.
What the hell?
There were long horizontal striations that seemed to travel across the face of the mound. There appeared to be different levels of rock or sediment stacked upon one another, almost like layers which had been put down over thousands and thousands of years.
I know, he's a great narrator, Eron. Do you think it's comforting to know that stuff like this will be here long after we're gone, or is that upsetting?
In places, the layers had been abruptly twisted and smashed, as if the earth had been moved back and forth. It could be faulting. We were now 185 feet below the water's surface and continuing our descent. We moved in for a closer look. It appeared as if the seam had been undercut at the bottom, as if sand, wind, or wave action had cut into the surface.
Did they pipe these sounds into the machines or what?
Suddenly, the face pitched over sharply into a beautiful dark canyon.
What's up, Randy?
We were hypnotized by the splendor of this massive formation. The walls were completely vertical, terminating in small ledges before plunging straight back down again.
Incredible.
We moved in even closer. The rock here had been carved inward to a much higher degree. A strong...
This looks like eyes to me. Like here's like the middle circle, and here's like the outer circle, and then there's the eye socket.
Sign of exterior erosion.
It's like
but
a
how
Pepe.
could there be erosion? Almost 200 feet underwater. A red-like algae clung to the top of the overhang. The crevice revealed uncommonly brilliant colors. Colors we had not expected to find underwater at Lake Tahoe. As we maneuvered in closer, it appeared as if water had
There's the guy running the drone.
entirely undercut the formation.
Whoa, check
But
this
how
out.
could water undercut the rock? Almost 2 miles out from shore.
God.
Small caverns and eroded crevices ran far back inside the mound. This was an extremely fascinating discovery. Hidden just beneath the waves for thousands of years, the scenes you are watching are surely the first time human eyes have ever gazed upon this
Did you hear that? This is the first time human eyes have ever gazed upon this.
beautiful architecture of nature.
Wow.
Using the remote utility arm aboard the ROV, we attempted to sample the side of the mound to see if the colored striations
I
might
don't know about
consist
that,
of soft
pal.
material. It was too hard to penetrate.
Too hard to penetrate.
Was this a volcanic formation pushed up from the bottom of the lake like the rest of the Sierra? Or was this sediment, which had collected for thousands upon thousands of years atop a small hill, a hill that is separated from the shoreline and slipped down deeper into the lake? There had been an important clue that we might be looking at a cross-section of sediment.
No, I don't think they're 2 miles deep. They're I think they were 100 and some feet down,
Earlier, when the ROV settled
but I think they went a little bit further.
on one of the
Is what they
shelves,
said anyway.
watch at the base as the shelf pulled away from the vertical face. There. That separation might explain how this series of vertical faces and shelves were formed over time. The mound stood out like a blackened monolith, silhouetted against the
Scooping
bright
up the
blue
sample.
sunlighted surface. How many years
see how
had
far
pleasure
down
boats
they could go.
and water skiers passed overhead, never knowing that 2 miles out from shore, this magnificent treasure lay hidden just below the water line. As we continued our descent, the mound alternated back and forth from sheer vertical cliffs into small hanging ledges. If this formation had been a...
If the water is super clear, it can go up to, well, this is a very wide range here. This could be something AI is getting wrong. It says direct sunlight fades quickly underwater, making visual tracking nearly impossible past 150 to 450 feet, which is like McHenry's life expectancy range. So I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Above water, it would have been set aside as a national preserve. At 214 feet underwater, we passed over a small eroded formation.
They were down like 500 and some feet over on the Rubicon side, and they said they weren't even a third of the way down. I think they said like 1,600 feet at its deepest.
The reddish material on top was harder than...
Well, but this was in 1990 something. Now it's at like all-time lows, I think.
The white material that formed the pedestal of this mushroom-shaped formation.
Mushroom shape.
Had the seamound once been an island out in the water? Or was this the edge of an ancient shoreline, created during one of the lake's extended periods of drought? Was this the reason why grass was growing on top and nowhere else in the lake's more shallow areas? We had far more questions than answers as we continued our descent.
Incredible. It's like
At
a little
253
toaster
feet,
taking these incredible, these incredible images.
there was still no sign of lake bottom sediment. The wall slabs were so sheer, there was no opportunity for deposits to accumulate. Like a silvery waterfall, we watched as finite granules of sediment cascaded off the steep pitched walls of the formation.
Finite granules.
We were dropping in a vertical line, no more than 30 feet wide.
Do you hear that? G-Thanks, vertical line.
Imagine what other surprises we might have found.
This looks like a,
no more than 30
check this
feet
out. This looks like an angry monkey face. See, there's his, it's like King Kong. There's his eye. This is like his snout. This is top lip. Here's his bottom lip. There's his chin, and then he kind of has his mouth open. Angry King Kong.
wide. Imagine what other surprises we might have found had we been able to move sideways along the face. At 374 feet, the walls began to slope outward as we started to see accumulations of sediment. At this particular location, we had reached another brief plateau. Our depth finder showed that the lake bottom still lay 225 feet down in deeper water.
Oh my, this is terrifying.
Topside, weather was setting in, and Jim Biller was having a difficult time keeping us live boating on station. With regret, we elected to terminate the excursion.
That was the George Dorunda of Lake
Boating
Tahoe.
on station. With
This guy right here.
regret,
Let me
we elected
drive
to
the boat.
terminate the excursion. As we started back up the slope, we encountered more curious-looking formations. We had seen so much in just one small spot, with the lake being 22 miles long and 14 miles across. Our imaginations ran wild with anticipation. What else might still be hidden around the next bend? What objects might still be laying submerged
Let's
that no
find
one
out.
expected to find? What more lay waiting to be discovered out there in the silent halls of Tahoe's misty blue water?
Oh, look at that. Beautiful.
The next day, we set out to explore off the southwest shoreline. The year before, Marty Rose, a professor researching for the Desert Research Institute at the University of Nevada in Reno, had surveyed a series of tree stumps that lay in depths of 40 to 80 feet of water.
Undoubtedly, we are probably not dealing with a time period in which the lake dropped and stayed down for a whole 1,000 years or 1,300 years. There was probably higher frequency.
Marty Rose from the Desert Research Institute. Is it desert or desert?
Variability, you know, the lake could come up and go back down. We just don't have enough dates on enough trees yet to pin down the higher frequency fluctuations. But we do know that the lake went down, and it stayed down for several hundred years, at least at a
Paper
time.
towels.
Because many of these trees that you see underwater
Arn Anderson.
that we can analyze have several hundred years worth of growth represented in the annual growth layers. So at that point, wherever that tree is growing, especially these bigger trees that you can see on the video, that area, the water was down, and it was down for several hundred years.
Using a coring tool, he had extracted a ring sample from one of the tree stumps and learned that it was almost 6,000 years old. This meant that since the last ice age, the tree had been growing on dry land at a place that was now underwater.
I was having a discussion with a colleague of mine, Larry Benson of the U.S. Geological Survey.
They putting his name up again?
In Boulder.
What color is that? Do you think it's like salmon or tangerine?
And I was just wondering if it's 30 feet or 40 feet or even 80 feet. Is that an outrageous
40 feet?
amount?
50 feet? Who knows? Maybe even 80 feet.
To drop Tahoe. And just doing some very simple calculations on the back of a cocktail napkin. If you held sort of a steady state, like the last 6 years, almost 7, have been a drought. If you maintain those conditions
of a man.
For about 1,000 years, what would happen with the surfaces?
Oh, remember the guy that George makes the stir fry with? I found that guy in 2015. He was part of like the Manitoba Food Association or something like that. But I don't know if he's still around or not. That was the most recent thing I could find.
Tahoe. In a very ballpark seat-of-the-pants sense, with rough calculations like that, though, we can see that we could drop Tahoe over a 1,000-year period 700 to 800 feet if we maintained a drought such as what we've had for the last 6 years.
How low the water line may have dropped was still not known. But the consequences of a drought that lasted over 1,000 years was...
Damn, over 1,000 years? Isn't that wild to think about? Like, imagine living through that.
Almost unimaginable. During our exploration, we had learned of an anthropological expedition being conducted near the south end of the lake. With the water line so low, a large granite rock that was normally submerged had come into open view. In several places upon the rock were discovered deep grinding holes made by ancestors of the Washoe Indian tribe. We spoke with anthropologist Susan Lindstrom, who was conducting the exploration offshore with a team of divers.
Normally, as we'd be sitting here on a summer's day...
what a very relaxing voice.
We'd be sitting underwater. The lake level would
Susan Lindstrom, anthropologist trad.
Normally be about 8 feet higher than it is right now. Because the lake has dropped, we've been able to see submerged tree stumps, so we know that there's an ancient forest on a submerged land surface. And we also see that there are these cultural features, perhaps from the ancestors of the Washoe, in these grinding rocks here that are also beginning to emerge. The more we understand
Be
about...
Be kind to Emac, he's slumbering.
...how prehistoric peoples use this land, I think that will give us more of a insight into how we can plan for future use of this area. Knowing more about past droughts, if we're dealing with droughts that lasted for thousands of years, were much more major than we're experiencing now, we'd realize that that can happen again.
You think his shirt was
As we
peach?
cruised along the bottom looking for the stumps, we came upon another interesting clue. At 62 feet underwater, we discovered what appeared to be a rock in the shape of a mushroom. Upon closer examination, the rock appeared to have been eroded by wave action.
Charlie, too shit.
actually traveling across what had once been an ancient shoreline of the lake. There were several old drift logs laying on the bottom. Angular saw cuts on the end of the logs.
Hey, South to West, did Ben stream getting kicked off, or was he just on their panel and got kicked off?
Identified them as vestiges of the massive timber harvest that occurred in the region during the late 1800s.
Oh, look at this guy.
There were quite a few crayfish in the lake, introduced at the turn of the century as a food delicacy. This one decided to first challenge us for ownership of his domain.
This was Eric McHenry when he found out we were watching him. He was like, hey.
But I guess the sight of that big yellow ROV was even too much for one brave crayfish to handle. Discretion being the better part of valor, well, he made good his escape. We were gliding along, enjoying the view, when suddenly from out...
If he didn't stream it, I'll ask Grace if she can link it to me and I'll clip it.
Out of the shadows, the first dark monolith loomed into view.
I know. It's like boom, 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 boom. The tuba. God, look at this. This is like something out of a cult.
It was difficult to imagine that this had once been a big, majestic forest. That this upright tree stump had stood through winds, rain, and pounding waves for almost 6,000 years without...
He said to spread the word.
...toppling over was itself a miracle. The rest of the forest had long since perished, but this particular tree had contained so much sap and pitch, it was better able to withstand the onslaught of insects and the ravages of time.
Alton Johnson live. Let me screenshot that.
Preserved from the past, we were looking at a tree that had once stood tall and proud near a receding shoreline of the lake. It's easy to imagine that our early human ancestors camped under its branches or slipped by silently as they hunted and fished along the lake.
It really does. It looks like a completely different world.
Its ancient shoreline. Down at the base between the roots, a family of crayfish had set up permanent living quarters. Nearby in deeper water.
Look at this device infiltrating these people's homes.
Other tree stumps soon came into view.
It's funny though because it gives you perspective on how big the things actually are.
Was it possible to view near permanent living? Down at the base between the roots, a family of crayfish had set up permanent living quarters. Nearby in deeper water, other tree stumps soon came into view. Was it possible that more trees could be found in deeper water and at other locations along the shoreline? The more we explored, the more we came to understand how little we really knew of this mysterious land.
Sorry, I had Discord on and Bethadone was sending messages. That's what that beeping was.
Stood a tree that had once witnessed the passing of the ages. Tens of thousands of sunrises had fallen upon its upper branches. Now, it stood entirely alone, in silence, its ragged top submerged, less than 2 feet under the water's surface.
You think they should compare it to a soda can so we can get a good idea of the relative size?
We spoke with longtime Tahoe resident Judge Chappelle, who remembered early day Lake Tahoe from when he was but a teenage lad.
Coming up from Oakland, we had 17 flat tires on a Model T pickup. We'd put a patch on and run a little ways, and the heat would take it off. And that was the trip I made that when my dad and I stepped off the...
She just sent a few. She must have just got done streaming or something. She sent me a screenshot of a conversation she's having with some guy.
Steamer on January the 6th, 1931, as near as I can ascertain.
You're in Lake Tahoe right now? If you're really in Lake Tahoe, I'm pretty jealous, to be honest.
And talking to different ones. We made either the 26th or 27th person or the 27th and 28th
a learned Bay Area gentleman.
Person or whatever on the south end of Lake Tahoe. I was working for $1. My dad worked for $4 a day. You had cars, but you didn't have the roads to travel around.
Back then, the only time you saw a woman with tattoos is if you went to the circus.
And if you went to Reno, why, you got up a little bit early because it was an all-day trip to go into Reno and to get back. You saved your money all summer, worked like heck to save all your money. Then you went down to the grocery store and bought groceries for all winter. And 4 of us lived on $350 worth of groceries. But that's when you buy a case of peas or a case of corn for a couple of dollars. None of this $1 a can stuff or any of that.
Our next stop was at the
Yeah, we're big fans of the Bay Area in this chat.
crown jewel of the Sierra, Emerald Bay. We had heard there was an old submerged rowboat out in the bay. This was intriguing because of the numerous stories about early-day pioneers who were last seen rounding Rubicon Point, never to be seen again. We were often asked during the filming, did we find any bodies under the lake? Well, if you mean did we find Jimmy Hoffa going for a morning stroll in his concrete shoes, the answer is no. But then again, we only covered a small fraction of the lake bed. The probability that skeletal remains could still be found under the lake are very real indeed. Back at Emerald Bay, we descended down the side of a floating drift log. The bottom was covered in a heavy layer of brown silt. The water in Emerald Bay was somewhat murky from the spring runoff. Suddenly, a strange shape emerged before the camera. It was an early, vintage-looking kayak that someone had filled with rocks and had sent to the bottom. This was not a rowboat, but it was nonetheless interesting to discover.
He's building up the potential to see some bodies in the sequel, Sunken Treasures of Lake Tahoe 2. Back to the Rubicon.
We continued our search, probing the bottom of the bay for anything different.
Keep probing.
At a depth of 90 feet, we found it, lying on the side of a gentle slope.
Oh, wow.
From the transom, it appeared to have been an older design. As we circled the boat, one of the crew remarked that it appeared in remarkable condition, perhaps even
It appears in remarkable condition. Yeah, let's make sure we put that in the documentary.
salvageable. But on closer inspection of the starboard side, we found the mortal wound that had sent it to the bottom. A short distance away, an old Gold Rush era barge lay in the shallows.
There's more wrestling than there is anything else. There's 3 dedicated days to wrestling. You cannot act like you're not getting much wrestling.
It had probably been used to haul lumber and other heavy staples across the lake during the days when boats were Lake Tahoe's primary transportation source. A large lake trout came into view. He tolerated us for a short while, but ultimately
suspicious.
Was in no mood for extra company. Before leaving Emerald Bay, we took a closer look at Emerald Island.
Jason Momoa. No, you can't say amount of in-ring wrestling. That's irrelevant. There are 3 regular wrestling programs on this channel.
Waterline. Huge
I can't control how they book it.
Boulders reflected the morning sunlight. A school of minnows darted back and forth in the safety of a nearby rock. Deeper down the side of the island, the granite pitched over into the darkness. Nearby, 2 scuba divers were on a visual excursion. One of them approached the submersible with a crayfish.
Hey, let him go, asshole.
Soon they moved off, disappearing silently into the darkness of Lake Tahoe's blue water.
Where else are you going to find on the same day the incredible adventures of a shut-in in the morning and then exploring the wonders of Lake Tahoe in the afternoon?
Our final dive site was to be in Glenbrook Harbor, an area rich in Western history.
This is the house that Grace built, for sure.
This had been the terminus where passengers from the
I would have never even went back to... I mean, I probably would have streamed over on Twitch, just played games or something, but like I wouldn't have started doing a commentary channel.
Or embarked for the trip to the Comstock Lode at Virginia City. They had driven huge pilings into the sandy bottom and thereupon built docks onto which passengers and freight were loaded. Tops of the piling...
We could probably try to catch a predator again. I would just have to... like heavily edit it, but I think we could probably, because I feel like we did watch a good amount of it, right? We watched 3 or 4 cases, I think, before it got taken down.
Had deteriorated over time. Some had been in the water for more than 125 years. They saw the coming of miners and bandits, mercantile men, peddlers and ladies of ill repute. Who knows?
Hitler's ladies of ill repute?
What Mark Twain himself said. Peddlers and ladies of... They saw the coming of miners and bandits, mercantile men, peddlers and ladies of ill repute. Who knows? But what Mark Twain himself may have walked across these very pilings to catch a ferry boat across to the other side. Under the surface, it was quite a different story. Pilings were strong and stout. They looked to be no more than 10 years old. The water was so pure and free of bacteria. Pilings had remained as perfectly preserved as the day they were driven into the sand.
What are they doing here? Just filming the bottom of the of a deck?
A great number of trinkets, tools, and hardware that accidentally got dropped over the side during Tahoe's active heydays lay buried only a few inches beneath the shifting sands.
What's up, Heathen? Yeah, and I mean, typically that's true, but YouTube kind of has different rules if you're a big company, you know what I mean? And that's what happened with the Catch a Predator. But I feel like we watched 3 or 4 different cases, so maybe there's just certain ones that trigger the content ID. Thank you, Bob Brown, for the watermelon. People really love the watermelon Ryan saga, Heathen. Thank you, man. I love that little guy. He would fit right in at Lake Tahoe with his kind of summer attire.
Now, in those days, the Bliss family had constructed a steam-powered passenger ship on the shores of Glenbrook Harbor. From rudder to bow, the proud vessel was 190 feet long. The steam
You want some moonshine made from Lake Tahoe water?
engine with its single smokestack powered 2 big propellers.
Oh, look at this steam ship.
Tahoe had a lucrative contract to deliver the U.S. mail throughout the basin. In the mid-30s, the mail contract was awarded to another firm, and the Tahoe fell upon hard times. The Bliss family, not wanting to see their ship picked apart by vandals or sold for scrap, decided to send her to the bottom where no further harm could befall the elegant lady. Late one night, sea cocks were opened. Water began to...
I watch his new show, Takedown, and like it's just crazy that as soon as they set up, we've talked about it before, but when they go to an area, they do a news story on the fact that they're there doing these sting operations. So it's not like super quiet or anything. And like they always catch like a bunch of guys. They go back to the same places too. Like you would think people would learn.
To flood her compartments, and the steamer Tahoe.
Or just that you'd run out of creeps, but I guess you just don't. They caught a guy that looked like Santa Claus not too long ago, and it turned out that he was the Santa Claus for the police department.
Silently from sight to her watery grave.
He had been in like the home of the guy who arrested him.
Using sophisticated GPS tracking equipment linked to a satellite, the Echo 5 anchored directly over the site that was believed to be her final resting place at the mouth of Glenbrook Bay. The ship's depth finder indicated it was 372 feet to the bottom. Slowly, we descended away from the bottom of our boat toward what we hoped would be the wreck of the steamer Tahoe. At this depth, it was nearly pitch black.
We could probably watch some of the amateur pred catchers though. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I saw a little bit of it the other day. A guy went to, which is wild that he did this, and a lot of the people in the comments were pissed about it. But he went to a school to confront the coach for having an inappropriate Snapchat conversation with one of the students.
Activated the onboard quartz lights to help find our way. The lake bottom looked extremely flat. Nothing but sediment in every direction. We turned the ROV about and set it on a course toward the large object we had detected on the bottom. There, just ahead, we saw her ominous shadow.
I showed it, clown. It was taken down. What can I do about it?
The ship was gigantic. She lay flat upon the side of a rising slope.
I saw that, Hugh.
Listing slightly to the port side.
There's a documentary, too, about the whole series called Predators. But yeah, I saw the trailer for the Robert Pattinson movie.
Her bow was high and faced back uphill toward the Glenbrook shore, where she had first been launched. At 372 feet, there was just enough ambient light from overhead to silhouette the hull. The stern of the ship lay downhill. Near the bow, we encountered the twisted remains of the top deck railing. It had been ripped from the hull by previous salvagers who were using our grappling hook from the surface.
Scavengers.
Even in her silent resting place, they had attempted to scavenge away the dignity of this proud lady of the lake.
Proud lady?
As we worked around to the bow of the ship, we discovered a long trench-like depression leading uphill, away from the keel. When the Tahoe had settled to the bottom, she had slid downhill with her stern in the lead, leaving this distinct skid mark in front of the bow. In 50 years, little had happened to change the original point of impact. In another 500 years, this depression would fill with sediment and vanish from view.
Wow.
The steel bow line of the ship was severely bent. It had likely been caused by accidentally running into a dock. In those days, it was popular to design ships with a long, sleek profile so they could slice knife edge through the water with little resistance.
This proud lady of the lake.
As we came over the top of the railing, the foredeck stretched out into the darkness. The forward cargo boom rose vertically off the deck. It struck a mysterious silhouette in the gloomy light.
Mysterious? How?
The big steel anchor ties were still affixed to the deck. They were used to secure the bow lines. On the starboard side,
yeah, he was Twilight
the
and
bow line
Batman.
tow rope was still hanging over the side, just as it was when the ship was sent to the bottom. Cosmetically, the steamer Tahoe was in excellent condition. On the side, her name could still be plainly read.
At the bottom of Lake Tahoe.
In the center of the deck, the windlass, once used to hoist cargo in and out of the forward hold, was quite stout and ready.
Maybe Bethadone will sing the Celine Dion songs.
Except for minor sediment dust, the Tahoe's wooden plank decking appeared to be in good condition. Behind the windlass lay an open hatch which led to the forward chain and anchor locker. There was an open door that needed no further invitation.
This is like a Lid Wetzel video, except it's exploring. Instead of like an old Kmart, it's an old ship.
Using the larger ROV as a monitoring post,
oh, look at this.
ROV operator Mike Lowther began the delicate and dangerous task of slipping his smaller system through the open hatch and into the ship's hold. Should the ROV's umbilical cord become snared inside, we could possibly lose the entire system underwater forever.
Forever.
Inside, small particles of oxidation had formed along the metal surfaces.
Now this is cool.
The anchor and chain still lay coiled in the corner. They would never be needed again. But the ROV's thrusters kicked up a hurricane of sediment. It soon became difficult to see anything. Fearing the loss of our system, we beat a hasty retreat.
Beat a hasty retreat.
We came out and continued to work along the side of the ship. Glass in the portholes reflected our light back into the camera. When the ship went down, trapped air inside the captain's quarters had virtually blown the wheelhouse off the main deck. Foundation was all that remained. The Tahoe's distinctive single function.
Now it's playing music like you would be eating an Italian dinner or something. Who are you going to tell something to? It's me. What is the deal with this music? Is this Luigi Primo coming out?
The smokestack was still in place, though it had been dented by the salvager's grappling hook near the top.
Also, spoiler, but Wednesday's JCW has Luigi on it. I saw it when I was looking for the thumbnail.
Curiously, we elevated over the top and peered into the open funnel.
Now this is going to be... They're not going to show it?
Facing forward, the bow stretched uphill, providing a dynamic view of the ship. We continued our exploration of the Tahoe, moving along the side railing. We were fascinated by the wooden architectures of the windows and doors. How many early-day pioneers had gazed out through these same windows as they crossed the lake? The door was ajar, so we decided to give it a nudge. Remarkably, it opened effortlessly. On the starboard side, forward of the engine compartment, was the entrance to the galley.
Oh my God, this is so stressful.
We slipped through a narrow passage to peer inside. Those huge white cylinders were the air intake ducts. On top of the ship, these open air ducts sent fresh air down to the engine compartment. Over the engine compartment, the summer vent window had been left open. It was difficult to see, but inside, a myriad of steam pipes led from the main boiler.
Wow, this is crazy.
Behind the engine room, restrooms were on the other side of the bulkhead.
This is what OPC Don's camera looks like in the Thorpe apartment bathroom.
The roof had probably been ripped off by the salvagers or during the sinking. The toilet seat had been left in the up position. One of the crew remarked that no doubt a man was obviously the last one to use the facilities.
Well, we don't find that humor to be funny.
The wash basin still had the old-style faucet handles. There were organisms forming on the undersides, but everything else was still in remarkably good condition. Slowly, we made our way toward the stern of the ship. When the Tahoe sank, the rear of the ship took the brunt of the impact. It carved up a large pile of sediment off the bottom, apparently severing the rudder and burying the two propellers. As we came about on the other side, we discovered the very top of the port side propeller blades still protruding from the
Domino's.
sand. The initial impact from the
Domino's.
sinking ship had bent it back forward into the wooden hull. There had been several endeavors to raise the steamer Tahoe, but each had failed before it began. With the rear hull and the propeller so deeply buried, it would be like trying to remove a steel bar embedded in solid concrete.
Yep.
On the fantail, just beneath the railing, you could still read her name, Tahoe, home port, Glenbrook. In all, the steamer Tahoe was still in remarkably good condition. But it seemed like the grand lady of the lake had, in fact, made her final port of call in Glenbrook Bay. A silent, watery grave at the bottom of Lake Tahoe. We had barely scratched the surface of what still could be discovered. The early steamships Meteor and the Nevada were still out there somewhere, on the bottom of the lake, waiting to be rediscovered. We had only seen a trifle of what might still be under the waves of this magnificent alpine lake.
God bless the Bay Area.
How many more treasures lay hidden from view, just out of reach in the silent blue? Perhaps some things were destined to always remain a mystery. Sunken treasures, buried for eternity at the bottom of Lake Tahoe. For Skyfire, I'm John Tyson. Thanks for watching.
Wow, what a piece. What a work of explorative art. Now, he said that some things were always destined to be unknown, but just a few days ago, I think.
You are looking at the
we got the very first ever footage from the bottom of Lake Tahoe. Check this out.
You are looking at the bottom of Lake Tahoe. How about that? Nearly 1,500 feet below the surface. And
I decide what's Bay Area adjacent, okay? I decide.
Those little particles you see floating around there are rich with nutrients. An important part of keeping this lake healthy is what's called...
Honestly, no. That old footage was a lot better than I gave it credit for. I mean, seeing the new footage.
That's when the water at the bottom of the lake circles to the surface. And this typically happens every 4 to 7 years, but a University of Nevada, Reno professor says this could be changing.
The key part here is that the deep mixing from shallow water displacing that cold bottom water used to happen about every 4 to 7 years. We think, thanks to our colleagues at UC Davis who've conducted some modeling efforts here, suggesting with shifts in climate, that deep water mixing may stop after 60 to 80 years.
Well, there you go. It says this is the first ever footage. But, I mean, I feel like we saw that footage already. We've seen this. Why doesn't Skyfire get its credit?
Bottom of Lake Tahoe. How about that? Nearly 1,500
Wow, look at that. Amazing.
feet below the surface.
Did she say they did go the full distance?
At the bottom of Lake Tahoe. How about that? Nearly 1,500 feet below.
Wow, almost 1,500 feet. Nice.
The surface. And those little particles you see floating around there are rich with nutrients. And
so it took, you know, another 30 years, but we got it. Imagine if we'd have had to wait. Imagine if we had seen that video like 30 years ago and now we had to wait 30 years. Instead, we got immediate feedback. Isn't that great? ATF. Who's he arguing with in the chat? All right, well, I'm gonna go. I feel like we got to learn quite a bit about Lake Tahoe, what you can do there. Certainly, it's a beautiful location. We got to see what underwater exploration was like 30 years ago versus today. Literally, I think this was like a couple days ago. Oh, I'm sorry, it was 11 months ago. Well, I wonder what happened to the other one then. I had another video that was like very recent about the water level being low, but I guess it didn't show up. Anyway, though, thank you. I will be back in the morning for XPW, and if I stream tomorrow afternoon, it'll probably be, you know, something ATF won't care for. But thank you for hanging out and learning about Lake Tahoe with me. I do appreciate it. Hopefully, I'll see you guys later.